Now, the Lib Dems could lose more than half of their seats on polling day, but that hasn't stopped Nick Clegg talking about the kind of deal his remaining MPs may be prepared to do in a hung parliament. So let's talk now to the Schools Minister, Senior Liberal Democrat David Laws. David Laws, welcome to the programme. Nick Clegg has ruled out any arrangements with the SNP after the election. So just to clarify, does that mean that the Lib Dems would not support a Labour government that was reliant, even implicitly, on SNP votes for its Queen's speech and its budget?
What it means is that we're not prepared to go into coalition or have any deals or arrangements with not just the SNP, but the United Kingdom Independence Party. And we've made that very, very clear indeed. But what I'm not prepared to do is go through every single possible one of 50 or 100 scenarios to describe what we might do on the other side of the 7th of May, because we actually need to focus on communicating our message to the electorate and getting as many votes and seats as possible. Yes,
but your party exists on hung parliament, so it's perfectly legitimate to ask about the consequences. And I'm not asking for a lot of permutations. I'm asking for the permutation.
All parties will have to deal with that.
I'm asking for the permutation that the poll suggests is the most likeliest on May the 8th. And I want to be clear again. If Labour needs the support of the SNP, but comes to you for your support to get an overall majority, would any arrangement with the SNP mean you couldn't give support to Labour?
We're not interested in being part of a government that has a deal or arrangements or coalition with the SNP or UKIP. We believe that both of those parties are risking breaking up the United Kingdom and breaking up the United Kingdom's relationship with the European Union, and we don't want anything to do with those parties in government.
Do you rule out any deals that also would involve the DUP from Ulster?
I'm not going to go into every one of the other small parties in the United Kingdom.
That's the only other one I'm going to ask you about.
So far is he well, the only ones that he's ruled out so far as leader of the party are with UKIP and the SNP, and I think I'll stick with that line.
All right, but a Tory government that wanted your support, but also required the support, say, of DUP and UKIP for a working majority, that couldn't count on your support either.
We've been absolutely clear in relation to UKIP that we're not interested in going into a coalition government or a government that's done deals or arrangements with UKIP or the SNP. We believe both of these parties are fundamentally damaging to the interests of the United Kingdom, would tear the UK to pieces and threaten our position within the European Union. We don't want anything to do with those parties in government.
Well, I'm interested in why you seem to be curtailing your options so much, because as we sit here this weekend, the most likely result is either a Labour government that would require the backing of the SNP, even with your support, or a Tory government that would require the backing of the DUP and UKIP, even with your support. So you're counting yourself out from being part of the two most likely outcomes on May the 8th.
Well, we want to play a role after the election, whatever the result, and particularly if obviously there is a hung parliament, in creating a stable government, advancing the stronger economy and fairer society that we set out in our manifesto. But we just think that the SNP are so damaging potentially to the United Kingdom because their entire agenda is to pull it to pieces. And we are so far away from UKIP in our attitudes to many things, but particularly our whole country's future in the European Union, that we can't contemplate being in coalition or doing deals with either of these parties. Okay. And I think it is fair and straightforward to say that to the British people so that they have a clear idea of what a Lib Dem vote will deliver in the next Parliament.
Mr Clegg had a further condition. He said that a coalition with the party that came second in terms of number of seats would lack legitimacy. He said people would question its birthright. So why did you speak to Labour in 2010?
I think what Nick has actually said about that has been rather overspun, if I may say so, by the media. I think what Nick was seeking to do was to repeat the position that the party had in 2010 and before the 2010 election, which was to say very clearly that the party with the largest number of seats and votes has the potential to try first to form a government. and that government should be given the first opportunity to do so. What we're not saying is that it would be impossible, if that particular party failed to command a majority in the House of Commons, for other parties to seek to do so. That would be not a sensible position, because it would be possible for a government to have a mandate if it could command a majority in the House of Commons, but we must give the party with the largest number of seats and votes the chance to form a government first.
I mean, does Mr. Clegg, does what he think matter? I mean, if you're down to 20 or 25 seats, in other words, it's a massacre, I mean, he'd have to go as leader, wouldn't he? Somebody else would have to start out on the long road of rebuilding your party.
Well, it won't surprise you to know that I'm not going to accept the premise to your question, Andrew. I believe that the Liberal Democrats can actually outperform expectations considerably in the election in a week or so's time. What we're going to do, if there is a hung parliament, is to do our best to deliver as much as possible of the Liberal Democrat manifesto that we published a couple of weeks ago, create that stronger economy and fairer society together, and also to do the right thing by the country. If there isn't one party with an overall majority, then we owe it to the country as far as we can to create a stable government and to deliver the improvements in the economy that we've seen over the last few years, to make sure those continue into the future.
The Lib Dems are very powerful of the sort of democratic triple lock that they've had, that you have to go and consult the politicians, the activists, for any kind of coalition agreement that your leadership agrees to. Would you also have this triple lock on a supply and confidence arrangement, or even on a more informal arrangement?
I think that it makes sense, whatever the technicalities of the particular constitutional arrangements, for a party like ours going into any constitutional arrangement to consult with the wider party about that. You have to know that you've got the endorsement and support of the party for these types of things. And actually what we discovered in this Parliament from 2010 onwards, a tough one for the country and a tough one for our party, is that getting that support and endorsement for the leader's position and the parliamentary party's position as early as possible, and knowing that you've got the party behind you, is very, very important. So I'm sure Nick Clegg would want to make sure that whatever arrangement was reached after the election, he knew that the party was fully behind him on that.
Okay, David Laws, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It's
Good to be with you, Andrew.
Just gone 3:05. You're watching the Sunday Politics.